Margins in the middle. Central Seoul's unseen urban boundaries. This video will first define the research area, before we set the context. Then we will dive into the research question and the reference lens adopted in the approach. Lastly, we cover our findings and conclusion. The area I've chosen to focus on is Yongsan, located in the heart of Seoul. To understand Yongsan's role in the city, it's useful to first identify the three major central business districts, CBDs, of Seoul. I noticed that these three CBDs, Jonggo, Gangnam, and Yeouido, form a triangular connection across the city. This observation led me to examine the area enclosed within this triangle, Yongsan, to better understand how its development has been shaped by its strategic proximity to all three CBDs. Here we have the land use plans of Seoul. And here we have Yongsan. It is interesting to note the major military special area located in Yongsan, right in the heart of the city. Within Yongsan, I will be focusing on three specific regions, areas that are, or once were, left behind in the city's rapid development. First, the Jokbangcheon, a homeless enclave near Seoul Station, known for its dense concentration of tiny, subdivided rooms. Second, Haebangcheon, a neighborhood with roots as a post-liberation refugee settlement, originally formed by those displaced after Korea's liberation from Japanese rule. And third, Usaedan-dong, a migrant enclave at the foot of Namsan, home to diverse immigrant communities. Now the research question: how do physical and social boundaries manifest in Yongsan GU, and what do they tell us about the urban morphology of Seoul's urban development? To frame my analysis, I've adopted Kevin Lynch's 5 Elements of the City from his book The Image of the City. These elements serve as the reference lens through which I interpret the spatial and social characteristics of the three regions. I chose this lens because urban planning is often executed from a top-down and formal approach. By contrast, I wanted to flip that viewpoint, to explore the city from the bottom up, grounded in the lived experience of urban space. This approach helps to uncover why these particular places have been left behind, not just in policy or planning terms, but in how they are perceived and navigated by people on the ground. Starting with Haebangcheon, which was a post-liberation settlement for refugees and returnees after 1945.
Haebangcheon, a district in Gyeongsang-gu in Seoul, South Korea, literally means liberated village. With the liberation of Korea in 1945 that ended 35 years of Japanese colonial rule and the Korean War, Haebangcheon became a town for those who were displaced due to war, like those returning from abroad and refugees from North Korea. Most of the residents who settled in Haebangcheon were poor and marginalized people who couldn't afford to get a house, so they built an unauthorized shantytown at the foot of Namsan Mountain and began to live together. Because of its geographical characteristics adjacent to the US military bases in Yongsan, it also became an exotic place where various foreigners lived and a high concentration of foreign cultures coexist with old Korean traditions. The recent urban renewal has quickly transitioned to a popular attraction for the younger generation, where westernized coffee shops, bakeries, and restaurants are concentrated. Other characteristics of Haebangcheon, such as low rent and proximity to other popular locations within Seoul, make it ideal for young entrepreneurs to start new businesses in Haebangcheon. Aside from these social and economic benefits, other cultural and historical facts make Haebangcheon an iconic location. An unknown fact about Haebangcheon is that it lives the sad history of Korea. It is in fact a living artifact of the Korean War. The residents of Haebangcheon have a variety of generations, including first and second generation natives, as well as poor artists, migrant workers, and young people who recently entered the village. Most first generation residents can be rooted back to post-colonial years, when Haebangcheon was first settled by refugees fleeing the war, North Koreans who had fled south, and other poor displaced people who had no place to live. With the recent urban gentrification, there is a new wave of younger generation culture artists and entrepreneurs that are occupying the region. In Haebangcheon, not only Koreans, but also families from the US military bases and migrant foreigners of various nationalities who entered the country from the US, Europe, and Southeast Asia live in a mixture of...
Now, let's explore Haebangcheon through the 5 elements. It is a migrant enclave formed around Seoul Central Mosque, which was established in 1976. There has recently been a large area slated and cordoned off for redevelopment, namely Hanam District 3.
Itaewon is considered a global village in Seoul. Today, we take you to Usadan 10th Street. Rituals praying for rain were held here during the Joseon Dynasty.
우사단식들은 한남 대전비 촉진구역 가운데 있고요. 개발이 지연되면서 젊은 여성들과 상인들이 아주 특이한 가게를 많이 찾았습니다. 이슬람상 같이 이국적인 문화까지 더해져서 젊은이들이 즐겨 찾고 있습니다.
Now for Usaedan. This was the route I took that was still accessible. And now using Kevin Lynch's 5 elements. Last but not least, the Jokbangshan, a long-standing enclave of poverty near Seoul Station.
In this small, dense neighborhood in the capital Seoul, once a week, a dozen quarantine workers visit each resident and say, these areas are called Jokbangcheon, meaning a neighborhood of many small divided rooms, mostly where older adults live in poverty. However, the Seoul metropolitan government is tightening its prevention measures to contain the spread of COVID-19.
Starting January 30th, we've conducted COVID-19 tests on people from the neighborhood and who come to our center once a week. We're only allowing people who have tested negative to use the center.
One resident not using his real name said he's glad that more areas are being cleaned and sanitized. We like what they do for us. We have a lot of hygiene issues here because there are more underprivileged people than in other neighborhoods. It's a difficult place to enforce quarantine measures with many sick people in poverty. The more than 300 people living in the cramped and enclosed space in this neighborhood are not the only ones whose living situation puts them at greater risk of catching COVID-19.
And now using Kevin Lynch's 5 elements. To summarize my findings, several common patterns emerged across all 3 regions. The paths were generally narrow, enclosed and winding through irregular terrain. Rather than leading to central gathering spaces, many of these paths simply connected to other small paths, creating a sense of isolation. Nodes, or spaces where people naturally gather, were rare. Their absence contributes to a feeling of disconnection and a lack of community life. In contrast, landmarks played a significant role in defining the identity of each space. In Usadan, the Seoul Central Mosque has shaped the area's multicultural character, anchoring a diverse immigrant population in and around Itaewon. In the Jokbangshan, a children's playground, now repurposed by elderly residents living in poverty, serves as an informal gathering spot. Interestingly, none of these areas appear to have formed natural districts on their own. Their identities remain fragmented, often shaped more by external pressures than organic development. Lastly, in Haebangshan, much of the residential fabric has been redeveloped over the past 80 years, yet the Sinhyung market remains untouched. This raises questions. Is it a matter of ownership and compensation? Or is there something about its form or function that resists erasure? To end, I will leave you with these questions.